While it doesn't affect ultimately the level of professionalism you bring to work, sometimes you just see an object and it inspires you.
The level of detail and just intricate design is like nothing I've seen. This one has like so much applique, decorative stitching. The details in the gloves are just insane. Yeah, that thing is art.
It is art. Commonly, the type of objects that we deal with are very often one of a kind. They've perhaps been used, they're delicate, and they require this special attention.
So it would be really terrible if something from such an iconic property was lost because it wasn't able to be stored in a way that was safe over time.
We were approached inquiring about whether we could build a mannequin for the Black Panther costume. And this mannequin is a little bit different in that it would serve as both a storage mannequin and a display mannequin.
When the costume arrived at the museum, it was on a regular mannequin like you might see in a department store, which was giving it a good shape, but I felt pretty confident that it wouldn't be made of archival materials.
We try to collect as much reference as we can.
We like to take photos and videos whenever circumstances allow. Handwritten notes are good, and I remember some things and you remember some things, but if you forget the placement or direction of a zipper on a garment like this, 2 or 3 weeks later when you're working on designing the form, I mean, that can be a real headache.
So what we were looking for were things like stress points, holes, wearing, and friction. It's the type of stuff that when we're creating that 3D model, we might create a little bit of extra space for in order to allow the garment to sit comfortably on it without being strained.
Undressing a mannequin is always a complicated process. We had to kind of undress it and see what the order of operations was going to be, just to make sure that our form was appropriately designed.
The important aspect of undressing it was working as a team and knowing that there would be multiple people with different sets of eyes and multiple sets of hands to be doing the handling, and just watching all of the pieces as we started to slowly undress it, seeing is there stress or tension in one place or another, just making sure everything was being done with a lot of care.
Willow and Zach were with Laura when she undressed the object so everyone could get a good idea of what was under and maybe what some of the high-level needs of the mannequin would be in terms of the order of dressing, which is important because it affects the way that the joints will optimally be constructed so that the mannequin can be assembled under the clothes.
3D scanning is the use of structured light to capture the surface geometry of a three-dimensional real artifact. It allows us to use cameras or lasers and a computer to create an exact digital copy of some physical object in the real world.
Think of it kind of like echolocation. It shoots out a light, and depending on the distance that light comes back, it tells it what shape it's actually looking at. It then feeds it into its own program and creates what's called a 3D mesh, which is a model that is accurately scaled and representative of the real space object that you've scanned. It also allows us to handle objects that are otherwise too delicate to be touched or measured in traditional methods. We were scanning not only the mannequin, but the muscle suit. Chadwick Boseman was a man, but Black Panther was more than that. He was a superhero, he was a comic book character, and so his muscle suit reflected that. And what we wanted to preserve was what the muscle suit on top of Chadwick Boseman's body would have looked like in the Black Panther suit.
Any interesting or complicated object almost always presents challenges for the limitations of that technology. In this case, we struggled a lot with reflectivity and shifting of the garment.
We had to take multiple scans of different parts of the object and then actually take them and stitch them together. The difference between digital sculpting and traditional sculpting is really just hand skills, but the fundamentals of actually making an image or actually making a sculpture come out how you want are really one and the same. With any digital sculpt, what you really start off with are the general principles of anatomy. You have to take into account things like gravity and body weight shifting and where muscles tense and where they don't. The software that I was using allows me to take a 3D model and manipulate it in any number of ways, as well as create models from scratch, as if we were working with a ball of clay. Sculpting is really when all of the preliminary work that we do becomes really important. All of the reference photos, all of the videos that we take, those all come into play when we start doing the digital references. We are working off of very limited information. So in this case, we try to start off with any one singular concrete fact that we have. And in this one case, it was Chadwick Boseman's height. We couldn't really work off of any other measurements that we had because this was reflective of him in the muscle suit. It was really looking at it from all angles, looking at many different photos of him to try and glean what he looks like.
Conservators really are our biggest resource. Nobody but the conservator knows what specific part of an object is too delicate to be handled or what will change or deteriorate over time under certain conditions. So this, like every other project, when we go in there, we really lean on conservation staff to tell us the specific needs of any given artifact.
Part of it was, a lot of fun of rewatching movies for research purposes, trying to understand as much as I could about the costume. And part of that was how it needed to fit on a mannequin. One of the goals that I had for the mannequin was really to improve that visual appearance and make sure that the costume was being presented with that visual impact that it's supposed to have, meaning the right shape and silhouette to the actor. And then we started talking about the subtleties of the posture together and thinking about what would be a good posture for the mannequin. Telling the story of the character Black Panther and T'Challa with this costume was not like telling most superhero stories where it's about the athletic prowess and strength and skill of a superhero. This was more about the character within the suit and the intelligence, the compassion, the thoughtfulness. This is a king, so there's also a regal bearing. And in the end, we felt that a pose that was pretty neutral was going to do that best job. I was concerned that if the mannequin just was looking straight ahead, it might look like Black Panther was looking out over the heads of the audience, and that I felt would suggest something different for the character because there's so much warmth in T'Challa's character. And so we decided to have the head at a slight downward angle, and we hope that this means that in the gallery it'll look like Black Panther is really looking at visitors when they come by.